What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another mailbag. Now, as far as some of the questions in these, I'm not going to answer any Dame trade questions. I'm not going there. Also, there was a couple repetitive questions, so if your question isn't in here, don't take offense to it. I only put about half of the questions in here. Also, timestamps will be in the description below, and you can see them on the thing scrolling along the bottom. So if you want to skip ahead to a question, you can easily do so. I'm going to start doing that for every single mailbag for you guys, just because it makes the viewing experience a little bit better in my opinion. With that being said, no more intro. Let's jump into the questions. NBA Highlights 10 says, would it be worth signing trading Zach Collins for a pick in this year's draft? I'm very confused how this would work because you're not allowed to sign free agents until free agency, which starts August 2nd. The draft is before that in late July. The draft comes first. So how would you sign and trade Zach Collins for a pick in this year's draft, which happens before you can actually sign players? You can't just decide to sign and trade Zach wherever either. So this whole idea just doesn't work because the NBA doesn't actually work like that. It goes draft, then free agency. Drew says, could Nurkic become a top 5 center after this season? I'm not going to be bold enough to say top 5, but I think he can start knocking on the door, so to say. I think if he's able to play to his maximum potential, and if he's used to his maximum potential, which I have hope for with Chauncey Billups as our new head coach, then I think he could be in that 6 to 8 range. We all know he's an underrated defender. He was kind of inconsistent in that regard last year. Hopefully he's able to learn from some of his trials against Nikola Jokic in the first round this past season. Other than that, we need to utilize his playmaking to the fullest extent. He started shooting the 3-ball pretty well last year, was 12 for 30 on the season, shooting 40% from 3, so if he's able to build upon that, that'll only open up his game a little bit more. And then needs to finish a little bit better, but I think he can. He has a lot of potential still, which is why I'm not for trading him when his value isn't as high as I think it should be. So I want him back in a Blazer uniform next year. I think that he can be looked at as a top 6 to 8 center after next season. I'm not going to say top 5. There's a lot of good centers in the league right now. You look at Embiid, you look at Jokic, you look at Gobert, you look at Karl Anthony Towns, guys like that. It's going to be hard for him to get into the top 5, but 6 to 8 could be a good range for him if he's able to have a good year next season. Chantry Star says, how many more years do we have the championship window open, or has it already closed? There's no way it's already closed. How many years will it be open? That kind of depends on how long Damian Lillard is able to remain on this level. It also depends on how long Damian Lillard remains a Portland Trailblazer, which is hopefully for the rest of his career. So a lot of things factor into how long our championship window might be open, but it's definitely not closed. Go9er05 says, also, what are some players we should target with the taxpayer MLE? That's a future video, and I'm not going to spoil it. Lot Go Crazy says, do you think if the Blazers run it back under Coach Billups, we could still improve defensively compared to Coach Stotts? And absolutely. Stotts was not a defensive coach. He really brought nothing positive to the defensive side of the ball. He never really developed guys as defenders. Scheme-wise, he was a terrible coach. It was constant drop scheme and very few adjustments, if any. Stotts was just not a good defensive coach. I think it'll be hard for Billups to be as bad as Stotts was defensively, because something that Stotts lost this past season was he kind of lost the ear of the locker room, and he wasn't really a guy to hold players accountable. I think Billups will have the ear of the locker room, and he'll hold guys more accountable than Stotts did, and that's already an improvement right there without even getting into any of the potential scheme changes or helping the players with techniques such as Dame's footwork getting through screens and stuff like that. Russ says, what do you support more, a Ben Simmons or a Siakam trade? I would say a trade for the guy who's won a championship and can make a free throw. Alec Harrell says, do you think Chauncey being the new coach helps or hurts Melo's chances of coming back? What is the one thing you expect out of Chauncey Billups being our new head coach? I don't think Melo's coming back, and I don't think that has anything to do with Chauncey. In the press conference right after the season, Neil Olshey said that they need more impactful defenders off the bench. I don't think Melo is going to return as a Portland Trailblazer. Gut feeling, he's going to be a Los Angeles Laker next year, or New York Knicks. One of those two teams I think Melo is going to be playing for next season. I think Neil is going to try and bring two good defensive players off the bench at the 4 and the 5 after watching the travesty that was the Carmelo Anthony and Enes Kanter pairing. Now, Stotts didn't necessarily have to play those two guys together as much as he did, but, he still did. So this obviously isn't just a Neil Olshey problem, but I think he realized Melo defensively, it's not it. He's not it. Melo next to Kanter defensively absolutely is not it. I don't know how many times we had to say that all year last season. So I don't think Melo's going to come back for that reason. What is one thing I expect out of Chauncey Billups being our new head coach? Accountability, more ball movement, better defense. Jordan Hutchison says, Mailbag, a what-if question. What if the Blazers had Chauncey Billups as head coach this year? How far would the Blazers have gone? I think they would have won the first round. They were the more talented team. I think Chauncey would have gotten that team playing a style of basketball which could have helped them overcome the depleted Denver Nuggets team. I think most likely they lose in the second round to the Phoenix Suns, but I think they would have had a chance to beat the Phoenix Suns in the second round with Chauncey. If they did that, then they might have been favored against the Los Angeles Clippers team in the Western Conference Finals without Kawhi Leonard. So I would have favored us in 2 of the 3 series we would have needed to win with Chauncey Billups as head coach in order to get to the finals. So I don't think it's too crazy to say there is a chance that the Blazers could still be playing right now if Chauncey Billups was the head coach. Loco Crazy says, do you think that Powell wants to be here and is ready to re-sign? I have no idea. I don't know if we trade CJ, if that'll help us a lot in terms of re-signing Powell or not help us that much. I don't know if he wants to re-sign or not. I have no idea. My voice just quit on me. That was weird. Anyway, yeah, no clue. No clue on Norman Powell. Kyle Wilson says, is it reasonable to say that if we fail to re-sign Norman Powell, that Olshey would deserve to be fired? This is a really long question. Kyle says, I'm not on the fire Olshey bandwagon by any means, but I've always said since we traded Trent and Hood for Powell that we had to re-sign Powell and trade CJ for the trade to be considered successful. I'm not a fan of the 3-guard lineup, and I don't think either CJ or Powell would accept a bench role, nor would it be smart financially to pay 3 guards over $100 million. For me, rolling back the 3-guard lineup would be ridiculous, and letting Norman Powell walk would be fireable. If Norman Powell's playing at small forward, you're not paying $100 million for 3 guards, technically. Technically, Norman Powell's your small forward. Also, I feel like he's a wing. He's not a guard. He's a wing. He can play some small forward. He plays some small forward in Toronto, and Toronto is a team that has been successful and has won a championship. I know he's 6'3". He has an insanely long wingspan. His standing reach is like 8'7". I think his standing reach is only an inch or 2 shorter than Nasir Little's, and we talk about Nasir Little playing some 4 at times. So, yeah, he's undersized for the 3. Yeah, you do not necessarily want him playing the 3 next to an undersized backcourt. I understand the fit issues with that. I just feel like it's not as big of an issue as people act like it is. Michael Porter Jr. had some moments against Norman Powell. In the second half of Game 6, we put Damian Lillard on Michael Porter Jr. and he kind of shut him down. How many small forwards, though, are so big that Norman Powell cannot compete because of his size? When he has an 8'7" standing reach, extremely strong, I don't know. I just don't buy that it's going to be an Achilles heel going forward if you have Norm at the 3. Now, does Norm want to play the 3? I'm not sure. I don't know. I would prefer to trade CJ for a Pascal Siakam and play Norman Powell at the 2, so we agree there. But, I mean, you got to pay Norman Powell, even if it's bringing him back at the 3, which isn't ideal, but it's better than losing him for nothing. We're going to be over the salary cap anyway, so it's not like losing Norman Powell frees up any extra money. We'd get essentially an extra $3.5 million on our mid-level exception because we'd be able to use our full one instead of our taxpayer one. I don't care for an extra $3.5 million on our mid-level exception so we can sign a slightly better mediocre role player like a Derrick Jones Jr. Okay, I don't care about that. You got to bring Norman Powell back. If you have to pay him $25 million a year, I think you got to bring Norman Powell back. Yes, that's an overpay and crazy, yada, 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 but it's better than the alternative of losing him for nothing. On top of that, even if we keep CJ this offseason, the reason being might be that we don't find a trade that's worth doing for him. And not necessarily the Olshey line of thinking that people attribute to him where they think he's not willing to even consider trading him. It might be a situation this offseason where there's nothing good, even for the people that want to trade CJ. You know, there's people out there that want Colin Sexton and Kevin Love for CJ McCollum. That doesn't solve anything whatsoever. Colin Sexton is an even worse defender and more of a ball hog and more undersized than CJ McCollum. And then you put Kevin Love at the 4, who's a bad defender at the 4 at this point in his career. How does that solve our defensive issues? The fact that some people want that trade tells you everything you need to know about how they feel about CJ McCollum, and they're hating on him too much because they're willing to trade him for something that exacerbates the issues that they blame CJ McCollum for. Tell me how that makes any sense. Anyway, that's a little mini rant. Some of you know who I'm talking about with that. But the main point I'm trying to make is I don't even think Cleveland would do that trade. And that's not even worth doing. So it could be a situation where there's not a trade worth doing. We bring CJ back. We overpay Norman Powell. Have him starting at the 3. And then at the deadline, maybe CJ's looking phenomenal under Chauncey and raises his trade value. All of a sudden at the deadline, a guy might be available that makes perfect sense. And then we can slot Norman Powell over to the 2. As far as losing him, though, I mean, everybody wants Olshey to take risks. I mean, Olshey took a risk, and he got a better player. And Gary Trent Jr. is going to get paid, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to pay Gary Trent Jr. potentially $20 million a year or more. So, yeah, we lose Gary Trent Jr., but, I mean, he's got to get paid. And if we kept him, and then he got paid $20 million a year, you'd have people saying, oh, Olshey overpaying another one of his guys, right? No, but instead he traded his guy for a risk, which everybody wants him to do, and now everybody's freaking out about it. So I don't think it's fireable if he leaves. I don't think Norman Powell had a good experience playing under Terry Stotts. I don't blame Olshey for that. And a lot of people say, oh, good GMs take risks. Well, a lot of those good GMs that take those risks end up losing out on those risks. I don't know, man. It's just like people want him to take a risk, and then if there's a chance that the risk doesn't pan out, they want to crucify him for it. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. My anxiety says, do you guys think Chauncey is going to use Nas and Ant more if we still have him by next season? Absolutely. Absolutely, I think Chauncey will be more willing to play younger guys and give younger guys a chance than Terry Stotts was, and it could be a situation where he has to play Nas and Ant. I think Ant should be our backup guard going into next season. I think Nas should be our backup 3. We have 2 rotation spots left to fill off the bench. That's the backup 4 and the backup 5. Ian GPC says, what's your perfect scenario for Kawhi to come to Portland? I mean, we'd have to sign and trade for him, so we'd have to try and bring back Norman Powell for about $20 million a year. We would then have to try and trade CJ as well as Ellaby. Maybe you got to throw Nas in there for Kawhi if Kawhi is willing to sign here. You have to reach out to Kawhi first, get him to basically agree to the idea of coming to Portland, and then you can open up sign and trade dialogue with the Los Angeles Clippers. And if the Clippers are going to lose him for nothing, they're going to take back CJ McCollum. They're going to take him back and probably still try and win and hope that CJ McCollum and Paul George can be a competitive team, because they've traded unprotected future picks. So them going the tanking route isn't necessarily the ideal solution if they lose Kawhi in the first place. Normally it would be, but when you don't own your future picks, it makes things tough. So the perfect scenario is just you throw Dame in a meeting, you throw Chauncey in a meeting, you throw Roy Rogers in a meeting. Hopefully Kawhi loves playing for Chauncey and likes Roy Rogers and looks at Dame as maybe the best teammate he would have ever played with. I don't think he's played with a player that was better than Damian Lillard. You could maybe say Tim Duncan back in 2014, but even then, Tim Duncan was aging. I don't think he was necessarily better than Dame is now. So, I mean, Dame's personality fits Kawhi. The city fits Kawhi. You know, we're a pretty chill, laid-back city, but, you know, I mean, some people say Kawhi likes his strip clubs, so maybe that's a perfect fit for him. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a Hail Mary, but I think you got to try if you're Neil Olshey. You got to go for broke and have a backup plan in case you don't land him, where you can still have a good offseason and not put all your eggs into that basket. Brady Johnson says, what are the odds we make a move during the 2021 draft? I say 50-50. There is a chance we trade into the second round. I will have a video explaining some targets that we could trade into the second round for. Alex Wolf says, are there any players on this upcoming draft class that you guys would want to see Portland pick up if they go undrafted? Thanks. The draft targets video, if any of those guys go undrafted, then yeah, I would like to pick them up. So I'm not going to spoil that video. Stay tuned. Subleaf Gaming says, would you be against a Ben for CJ trade? I dropped a whole entire video on that a few weeks ago. Go check it out. I'm Adam says, what do you think this team's ceiling is without trading CJ? I don't know. It depends on Chauncey. Depends on how good of a coach he is. Depends on some of the ancillary pieces on this roster. If we have a really good bench, it makes things easier. We bring in Norm back to play the 3. I think we need to. I think it would be better than, the alternative there. But maybe if we lose Norm, maybe Nas slots in there and is the most improved player next year and is phenomenal and we're better somehow. I mean, there's so many factors that still have to be determined, even if we bring CJ McCollum back, that I can't really speculate as to what that team's ceiling would be. Anyway, that wraps up this mailbag. Hopefully you enjoyed. Stay tuned later this week. I got some more videos in the works right now. So we're going to speed up the process here with dropping videos. I'm going to try my best to get you guys some more content as we head up into the offseason. So with that being said, that's a wrap for this video. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.